Good afternoon. My name is Vikas. I'm part of a research team of undergraduates at the University of Maryland. So we've been working on our project for 3 years now. So going through, we're going to talk about the background and motivation for our project, and then go into our system design overall, and then into the subsystem. So why we chose the hardware we did, how the software works, and the sleep component of it. Then we'll talk about the experiments that we've run, the results that we have so far, and then what's coming next for us. So our motivation is that physical therapy can be a very long process, and it's been shown that patients often lose interest in it because it's hard to see any sort of tangible result from it, and so it's just not a very rewarding experience. We also decided to focus on forearm injuries as they're prevalent pretty much across society. Young people tend to get them as a result of sports injuries, whereas older people tend to break their arms in falls when they try to catch themselves. So it's kind of a widespread problem that we decided to focus on. And so our goal was to create a wireless device, like a sleeve type device that a patient could put on in the comfort of their own home and be able to, it can somehow keep them motivated and keep them engaged in the activities that they're doing. So we decided to use electromyography or EMG, which so when muscles are activated, it creates a potential across the muscle, and by placing an electrode on the skin, you can measure this potential. And so the idea here is that by looking at the patterns in those potentials, you can distinguish different movements and be able to tell exactly what the user is doing. And we wanted to employ biofeedback to be able to keep the patient engaged and to keep them feeling like they're making progress, and to show them that, doing it right has some sort of positive consequence. And so we decided to go for that in the form of a video game, because they're immersive, they're motivational, and if they can't get a physical reward from it, they can at least get a virtual one. So we decided to look at what's out there right now. Team Chip is a previous group at the University of Maryland from a couple of years ago, and they were working on under a similar premise, but you can see their device was very bulky. There are lots of wires everywhere. It's very difficult to use, and you need a technician. Whereas we wanted something that was more simple, that somebody can use at home without any extra help. We looked into for similar projects involving the forearm, what sorts of electrode placements are useful. And so we found over here, if you sort of have a ring of 8 electrodes around the forearm. That's been a design that's been used before, and that works. And we also found a project called Air Guitar Hero, so going along the video game aspect, where they had a similar sort of design, but they used it to see, Guitar Hero is played with sort of a fake guitar where you push the button. And so their design didn't have any buttons, and it just, you could see based on what finger they were pushing down, I was able to distinguish those. So our system, it starts here with the user wearing the sleeve, and they perform whatever exercise they're told to do. A signal is generated along their muscles in the forearm. It's picked up by the electrodes in the sleeve. It's processed on the board inside the sleeve, and then sent wirelessly. Sent wirelessly from the sleeve to another board connected to a computer. The computer has a neural net which runs and can distinguish the different motions from each other. And then based on what it receives, it has some sort of display here for the video game. And so that goes back to the user, and that's the biofeedback, so they can see, okay, I'm doing this incorrectly, or I'm doing it correctly, and hopefully that'll keep them engaged in the process. So looking specifically at the hardware, we have a custom board that we designed, which uses an ADS-1298, which is a TI chip that's specifically used for EEG and EMG sorts of applications. So it has 24 analog to digital converters, and so we have 8 electrode pairs connected to it, which are again connected to your arm. And so the data goes from the electrode into that chip. That is controlled by an Naviasky 644 microprocessor, and And so that takes the data from the ADS chip and does some of the basic signal processing before it's sent out through the EZ430 chip over to the computer. The signal processing, so what we did is inside the Atmega, first there's a high pass filter with a 25 hertz cutoff, just to get rid of some of the noise in there. The data sample is at 500 hertz, but we downsampled it to 25 hertz to keep it consistent and to get a more reliable signal. And so we have 3 bytes coming in per electrode pair, so that's 24 bytes total, coming in 25 times a second. So here you just see the frequency response from our high-pass filter. And then that data is sent over to the computer, which is running a neural network. And so how that works is that it has all of the input nodes coming in, which is the data that it's receiving from the device. It has these weighted nodes here that they go through and that sort of shovel them along in the correct path, and then a couple output nodes here which decide what motion it actually was. So in this case, we have 200 input nodes, which correspond to 25 data points from each electrode pair, and then 6 output nodes, which correspond to the 6 movements that we're trying to distinguish between. For the video game aspect, again, we wanted something that was simple, that was engaging, and that was immersive, something that would keep people motivated. So we thought a good way to do this, to keep it simple, is to have a very basic kind of mini game suite, if you will. So each game is for a specific exercise with very simple objectives, like a phone game here or a tower builder there. And so again, it's something to just kind of very quickly, like visually engage you and to show you that, okay, I'm doing this correctly because I'm winning in this game. The sleeve aspect, again, it holds the board that we made, it holds the battery, it is sort of a standalone thing. The important parts is that we're keeping it lightweight and adjustable. So there's some Velcro straps on there to make sure it fits snugly on your arm. It holds everything in place, and so the nice thing is, again, you don't need a technician. You don't need somebody to tell you, put this electrode here, put that one there. You just put the sleeve on and everything's in place. So you can see it's considerably nicer here with the sleeve than it is trying to stick them all on and connect all the wires and all that. So here's just the exercises that we decided to focus on, the ones that we could distinguish using our device. As you can see, they're all fairly simple, wrist movements. These are what is commonly prescribed to people who are rehabbing forearm injuries. So for the actual experiment, we had patients put on the device and perform the different exercises just for 10 seconds, and then switch to the next one to see what we could distinguish between. And we just use normal adult healthy volunteers. So we had a whole bunch of data. So what you can see here is across this vertical axis is what exercise the neural net thought they were doing, and across the horizontal axis is what exercises they were actually doing. And so the size of the box corresponds to the percent that ended up there. So you can see across the diagonal, which is of course where it's differentiated correctly. We had a very good 92% correct classification when we were distinguishing between 6 different activities. We also actually tried 2 stretches, but those were very hard to distinguish between because they don't actually actively engage your muscle. And so you could tell when they were doing a stretch instead of one of the other exercises, but you couldn't tell which one it was. So in conclusion, we had an EMG-based device. It distinguishes between 6 different exercises. Ideally, we want to be able to make something that's easy for a patient to use that they can take home and use themselves. And the next step for us is human subject testing on people who are currently actually undergoing the physical therapy to see what their thoughts are, if it is something that will be useful to them and that they think will keep them more motivated to keep doing